Emma lived alone in a small apartment at the edge of the city. Every morning, she made a cup of tea, sat by the window, and watched the world go by. People walked their dogs, children went to school, and the buses came and went. But Emma didn't talk to anyone. She had lost her husband 3 years ago. Since then, the rooms felt bigger, colder, and quieter. Her family lived far away, and her friends had slowly disappeared over time. Still, every morning, she opened the curtains and looked outside. It was a small habit, but it gave her something. A routine. A small reason to get out of bed. One rainy morning, she noticed something different. In the building across the street, a new light was shining in a window. It was soft and warm, like a candle. It flickered, just a little. She stared at it for a long time. For some reason it made her feel not so alone. The next morning, Emma sat by the window again. She held her tea close, warming her hands. The rain had stopped, and the street was full of life again. She looked at the same window across the street. The soft light was there again. But this time, something was different. There was a person. A young man, maybe in his 20s. He stood by the window, holding a mug, just like Emma. He was looking out too, watching the street below. Emma didn't move. She didn't know what to do. Should she look away? Smile? But then, something happened. The young man saw her. He smiled. And he waved. Emma blinked, surprised. She hadn't spoken to anyone in days. Weeks, maybe. She felt her heart beat a little faster. Slowly, carefully, she lifted her hand and waved back. It was a small moment. Just a second or two. But it stayed with her the whole day. She couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, the city lights outside seemed a little warmer. The silence in her apartment didn't feel so heavy. The next morning, she found herself sitting at the window a little earlier than usual. For the next few mornings, Emma and the young man shared small waves through the window. No words. No names. Just gentle smiles and simple waves. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt excited to wake up. One morning, she had an idea. It felt a bit silly, but she did it anyway. She took a piece of white paper and wrote, in big letters, "Good morning." She held it up at the window when she saw him. The young man laughed. Emma could see it, even from across the street. Then he disappeared for a moment and came back with his own paper. It said, "Good morning to you too." Smiley face. Emma smiled. Her heart felt warm, like the sun had come out inside her chest. After that, they started leaving little messages each morning. Just a few words. Nice weather today. I like your mug. You have a kind smile. It was nothing big, but it meant everything. Emma wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen. Days turned into weeks. Emma and the young man, whose name she still didn't know, became silent friends through glass and paper. But one morning, his window stayed empty. Emma waited with her tea, eyes searching the apartment across the street. No light. No smile. No wave. She waited the next day too. Still nothing. Her chest felt tight. She didn't know why, but she missed him terribly. He had become a part of her life. A small part, yes, but a bright one. On the third morning, she noticed a piece of paper taped to his window. It said, "Sorry I was gone. Sick for a few days. I missed you." Emma laughed softly, relief filling her like warm soup on a cold day. She picked up her notebook and wrote quickly, "Glad you're back. I missed you too." She pressed the paper to the glass with both hands, smiling wide. From across the street, he smiled back and gave her 2 thumbs up. And just like that, her heart didn't feel so lonely anymore. One quiet Sunday morning, Emma sat at her window, as always. The sky was bright and clear, and a cool breeze moved through the trees. Across the street, Liam was already there, waving with his usual smile. But today, there was something new. He held up a sign. "Listen in 5 minutes. I have a surprise." Emma blinked, curious. She opened her window, just a little, letting the air in. 5 minutes passed. Then, softly at first, she heard it. Music. A guitar. The sound came floating through the air from Liam's apartment. Slow and gentle, each note like a heartbeat. Then came a voice, his voice, singing an old jazz song. "Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking." Emma held her hand to her chest. Her eyes filled with quiet tears. No one had ever played a song for her before. Not like this. She looked across the street. Liam was singing with his eyes closed, lost in the music. And for the first time in years, Emma didn't feel old. She didn't feel forgotten. She felt alive. When the song ended, she clapped from her window. Liam opened his eyes and gave a shy bow. She held up a sign. "Thank you. That was beautiful." And he held up his. "You inspire me." The days grew warmer. Summer was near, and with it came longer light, open windows, and the sound of children playing outside. Emma and Liam continued their morning signs and smiles, their silent friendship growing deeper each day. One morning, Emma sat by her window holding her favorite blue mug. It had a small crack now, but she didn't mind. It reminded her of everything that had survived. She lifted her mug toward Liam's window, their usual greeting. But this time, Liam didn't lift his. He was there, but he looked different. Tired. Pale. His smile was smaller. Emma noticed. She tilted her head and held up a sign. "Are you okay?" Liam disappeared for a while. When he returned, he held up a sign that simply said, "Bad night. Hard to breathe." Emma's heart sank. She wanted to do something. Anything. She grabbed her notebook and quickly wrote, "Do you need help?" Liam shook his head, slowly. Then he smiled gently and wrote, "Just knowing you're there helps." Emma nodded, holding the paper close to her heart. The next morning, she made 2 cups of tea. One for herself, one she placed by the window, as if sending it across the street. The mug sat there all morning. Quiet. Steady. Waiting. Sometimes, love doesn't need words. Just a full mug, and a heart that cares. The next day, the rain returned. Soft, steady, and grey, the kind of rain that made everything feel slower. Emma sat by the window, holding her tea with both hands. She waited. Liam's window stayed dark. No light. No sign. No music. Her chest grew heavy with worry. She stared for hours, barely blinking. By evening, she could no longer sit still. She had never left him a note outside before, but today she had to. Emma put on her coat, grabbed an umbrella, and walked down the stairs slowly. Her knees ached, but her heart moved faster than her feet. Outside, the rain touched her face like tiny questions. She crossed the street, carefully, and reached his building. She didn't know his apartment number, but she had counted the windows enough times to know where he lived. She stood in front of the door and knocked. 1 slow knock, then 2. No answer. She waited. Then, at last, the door creaked open. Liam stood there, pale, wrapped in a blanket. His eyes widened in surprise. "Emma," he whispered. It was the first time she heard his voice. She smiled, tears mixing with the rain on her face. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay," she said softly. And for the first time in a long, long while, Emma stepped inside. Emma sat beside Liam on his old sofa. The room was quiet, except for the soft sound of rain against the windows. Liam looked tired, but better than she had feared. A small heater buzzed gently in the corner. A guitar rested on a chair, silent for now. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Emma made tea in his tiny kitchen. She moved slowly, carefully, but with care, like she had done it 100 times before. They drank together in the quiet. 2 mugs. 2 hands. 2 hearts no longer alone. Liam looked at her and said, "You showing up. It saved me." Emma blinked, touched by the words. "You saved me too," she replied. They both smiled. After a while, Liam turned to her and asked, "Will you come back tomorrow?" Emma laughed gently. "Only if there's tea." He grinned. "Deal." As she got up to leave, Liam walked her to the door. The rain had stopped. The streetlights glowed softly, and the world felt calm. Back in her own apartment, Emma stood at her window and looked across the street. This time, the light in his window wasn't just a sign of hope. It was a sign of home. Weeks passed. Then months. Emma and Liam no longer spoke through paper signs. They spoke in person now, over tea, over music, over soft laughter that filled both their homes. Some mornings, they sat together at her window. Other days at his. The glass between them was no longer needed. Their friendship had grown into something gentle and steady, not rushed, not loud, just real. Sometimes they talked about sad things. Loss. Loneliness. Regret. But more often, they talked about little joys. A new song, a funny bird outside, how the sky looked that morning. One day, Liam brought her a small gift, a new blue mug, just like hers without the crack. She smiled and said, "I'll keep the old one too. It reminds me of how far we've come." Then she added, "And how even broken things can still hold warmth." That night, Emma sat alone at her window again, just for a moment, looking out across the quiet street. She saw the light in Liam's window, and she knew something had changed deep inside her. The world was still big, and sometimes lonely. But she wasn't alone anymore. Not really. Because once someone sees you, truly sees you, the world becomes a little brighter, a little softer. And the window between 2 hearts, it stays open.